What a morning. What a morning. Look, I've managed to just get the YouTube stream up and running, so I think we'll stick with that. The issue was just something with Facebook. It was interfering, dropping out before, so apologies, guys. I think there was nearly 100 people there, and I've posted a few links just trying to bring people over here. It doesn't work so well because normally with the different platforms, they just like you to stream on their platforms. But look, I'm going to continue along anyway and repost this up on Facebook afterwards. But apologies to everyone for this morning. Sometimes this happens when you change around the software. They updated the software, the streaming software I have, and just is dropping out. When I connect onto Facebook, it just kicks me out of both. So look, we will persevere, continue on, and I have the YouTube up at the moment, so that seems to be going fine. But let me know guys, if you can hear me. There's a lot of still a few chats going on. Suzette, it should appear now. The stream should appear now, so hopefully you can see what's going on. Anyway, I want to go ahead and get started a bit on the drawing, and as you can see, I'm just turning the page portrait style. Okay, now we're going to do a sketch of this particular scene. I don't want to go too detailed in here, but I want to show you my general process, okay? So firstly, let's put in the area where the table is. So if we look at roughly where this little bottle or vase of flowers, you can see that it sort of sits on a table. And it's kind of like a white table, and then you've got the background, which is cloth as well. So I try to estimate where is that line where you want the bottle to sit on, and I put it roughly around here. Okay, so it's probably a third of the way through the page. Okay, go pretty light. I use the end of my pencil, as you can see here, to just put in a quick little line. Okay, and what we'll do is let's get in a few bits and pieces of the vase. Okay, so it's kind of just going up. Sunflowers as well. I tend to draw them in as these quick little circular shapes too, and then detail them a bit later. Okay, oval, and you can already indicate roughly which direction that they're facing. Like this one here, you've got it kind of facing upwards. This one's just facing towards the front. Okay, so I tend to just put them in as these little ovals, and the ovals indicate roughly where they are facing. And if you have them facing different directions, it makes it a lot easier to just get some variation into what you're painting. So I'll have to draw a little bit darker for you guys. I think it's tricky to see here. And also just put in a few of these little petals coming off on the edges, on the sides. Now I don't try to draw them all in with a huge amount of accuracy. Just try to get in an indication of where the petals go out. Later, when we actually use going with the watercolors, this will change up a little bit. So you don't need to get it all in with too much detail. And Yvette saying hearing fine. Christine says YouTube is good now. Great. We've lost about 80 or so people from the other stream, and this isn't. We've had a few technical things go not so to plan lately, especially in the group, in our big Facebook group. So that's life, I guess. Too light, can't see pencil. Let me just lower the brightness a touch. It's a little bit tricky to see. Maybe I can zoom in a touch. How's that? Does that look a bit better? That should hopefully help you. Okay. So the center part of the sunflower is what I try to indicate the most. The petals and stuff like that, I just get in a brief indication. Okay. And of course, this one here, as you can see, the petals kind of go upwards. And that's how you indicate the direction that they're facing. Okay. Like that. On here. And of course, the inner part, that darker sort of part of the flower facing upwards. Okay, just to remind me where to put it in afterwards. Here, of course, we had another one kind of coming up around here as well, so you can just add in a little indication of the petals. It's just for your reference, really. Okay. This one here, if I can get a few more of these ones just coming up towards the right hand side like that. And then we've got the bottle, which is then we've got there's okay, apples, a few apples and things like that here as well. I'm thinking I will just potentially skip over some of the detail with the other one, but I do want to try to put a few of these apples in. There's like a plate and stuff like that as well. Just put in a kind of rounder ball shape like this. And here, that. Okay. Draw that in there. Usually start out with the roundness first, a round sort of shape, and then refine it as we go on. Your drawing is it's interesting. Emma, if you refresh your screen, Emma's saying that the stream doesn't exist. It's a black screen. Yeah, if you refresh your window, it should help. Yeah, it may not have reconnected. There's a few people who are saying that they can see. Can you? Okay. Yep. So try that. Yeah, I'll have to investigate, have a bit of a look later on and see what's actually happening. I'll do some tests for next time. Yeah, the program just updated itself. So there we go. We've got a little indication of this apple, and I'm going to get in the other two. There's one here, okay, next to the vase or the bottle jar. Then we've got another one right in front, kind of overlaps a bit like this. Okay. And still lifes are not something I paint so often. Normally when people think of painting, especially when they go to a class or something like that, they do think of still life or maybe like a portrait painting or something like that. But what I do find is that they can be helpful. Yeah, they can be fairly helpful. Like if you are wanting to get in some practice on shapes and forms. Okay. I don't want to spend all day drawing in all these little details though. So we want to focus on the flowers. There is this kind of cloth that comes off here and goes downwards. So again, indication of this cloth. coming down the table like that. The table actually has a front part of it, like roughly here, just underneath the plate section, and then it's fairly dark underneath here. Okay, so you should have something that resembles this this little scene here. Okay, I've got the bottle. Another thing as well is just to put in maybe the water level. Okay, like in here in the bottle, rough indication of the water level. Some of these little stems as well coming through the water. Okay, just simplify these down. Yeah, put in a few little of these stems. That. Okay, coming through like that. Okay. Let's get the edges of this bottle in a bit better. Okay, good. So, you can also rewind the video a little bit to where everything properly started, if you missed out on the first part of it. But yeah, just having a look. Okay, a few more petals for this one up the top here, and again, I'm not trying to draw every single one of them in. I'm just putting in an indication. Okay, really just to mark out roughly the size of everything. Okay, there's an apple here. I'll just erase some of this line behind the apple here as well. Okay, I really want to just get you guys to focus on the actual flowers themselves. So we will zoom out a bit so you can now see the general composition, the general plan that we've got here. Okay, and we're going to start with some colors. So let's get in. I'm going to pick up a little mop brush. Okay, and over here I will mix up a tiny bit of this color. It's Hansa yellow. Okay, Hansa yellow, which is basically a really vibrant yellow. The way that I do these petals is that I push down a bit more during the center, and then lift off at the end. Okay, and when you lift off at the end, it creates these like sharper edges, tapers the petal in a little bit more at the end. So as you can see, I start off mainly in the center and then work my way out. But I know, other people will do it, from the outside in, what have you. Not a huge difference, but make sure that you use a lot of water here. You want to use about 80 to 90% water in this section. You don't want to be using too much paint. You want it to be nice and light and transparent, especially for later on. This one's got quite a few little petals, so I'm just putting them in quite quickly, as you can see. I always start with the light bits first, because with watercolors, you're not going to be able to get in a lot of that light afterwards. So you need to be able to preserve these light bits, get them in first. Any color that is close in tone to the yellows, the white of the paper, just get those in first. Okay, there's what have we got in here? There's a few more petals going upwards. Notice as well, I'm just trying to follow the direction of these petals so that they indicate where the flower's facing. Like this one, for example, you can see it's sort of, the petals are going towards the right, so these ones to the left, and maybe upwards, these ones to the left. And so the flowers look a bit more varied, a little bit more interesting. So Now I'll go into the middle as well of the flowers, and let's put in a bit of yellow in here as well. Maybe a bit of yellow ochre. Yellow ochre is just a kind of a darker yellow. And see how I sort of just paint the center of the flower in. And this, again, helps to guide the direction which way they're facing. So a bit more of this darker yellow. And also what I like to do is drop in extra paint into some of the petals. Okay, as you can see, little bit of darker yellow paint to the petals, because actually they're not as bright as I've as we put them in already. They actually have a bit of darker yellowy bits. They're still yellow, but near the center of the flower, you get a bit more. You get a bit more darkness. Okay, don't be afraid to also leave out a bit of that white on the paper as well. Okay, now I will pick up a little bit of, this is just a bit of black, and I'm mixing that in with my yellow because I want to create maybe extra darkness in the center of these flowers. I don't want it to be too dark though, so I'm just being quite careful. And I'm doing it now because I want this to just blend into the flower nicely, so it just appears softer, not too harsh, and not too harsh and sharp. Okay, we're just getting in some loose shapes, and kind of keeping in mind the direction that you're making these. The more spherical you make them, like this one here, the more it appears that sunflower's facing forwards. If you've got it kind of on the side like this, it looks like they're facing downwards, or like this, facing upwards, that kind of thing. So I think this is okay. We'll go and just get in. I'm going to pick up, what have I got here? So I'll pick up the same round brush, little round brush. And I will put in a bit of green. A little bit of green for the leaves and stuff like that. So there are some bits and pieces of leaves here. I can just put in here, and get it to blend in nicely. This could be like a bit of a stem or something. Here. You notice some of it starts to go into the flowers. I'm not too worried about that. I just want to get in a little touch of green in here. Okay. Blend that in like that. Okay. And let's have a look. Maybe some of this stem we can put in as well. Just a bit of green for the stem. Mark out where it is. This is an interesting one because the water in here, the water level and what have you, it's not too much contrast between the jar and the background. Also, the light source is coming from that left hand side and above, so you're getting, it's almost like a bit of darkness underneath, but it's not as dark as I think even the background looks like a little bit lighter than the jar. So let's just give it a go. I'm gonna put in. Well, firstly, we've got to decide to ourselves. Well, do we want to make this jar like a lighter or a little bit darker? I think probably it'd be better to make it slightly darker, because the background is lighter. And then I'm cutting around all these flowers anyway, so I think that's going to create some enough contrast and variation. So I will just go ahead. Let's just put in a bit of, this is really just some grayish color. Okay, just a bit of grayish color that I've found on the palette, and you can use whatever color you've got. You just mix up your primaries or something like that. but I will just drop a bit of that in here. Okay, carry this down so that it looks like the flowers are actually sitting in something. Okay, cut around some of those stems. Okay, like that. The actual water that it's sitting in is a little darker. I'll have to go over and redo that afterwards, give it a second layer. Okay, but just put in a bit of gray there to give it an outline. Okay, look at this. We've got some of these apples as well. Why not just put in a bit of green? I'm going to put some green and just some yellow together. I don't have a very vibrant green on my palette at the moment, but we can mix up a lighter green like this. Okay, and put this in. There's a few different colors on these apples actually. There's like a kind of a more lighter greeny color here. Almost like a bit more yellowy in there. Tiny bit. Putting a bit of that here. Let's just get in the general shape of it first. That. Okay. That. Yeah. Yeah. Oops. A bit of gray with that, actually. A bit more green. Running through. Good. Let's put in some colors for this tablecloth as well. So you can see there's really just these little indications of these blue bits and pieces here. Narrator's asking, Darren, is that a sap green mixed with yellow? It's actually a dark green, so it's undersea green. It's like a granulating sort of green, and I've mixed it off with a tiny bit of yellow. So just have a play around with what you've got. The main things here is just looking at whether it's like a light green or a dark green. DM is asking, will the recording of this be available yet later? Yes, it will be. I'll put it up. If anyone's on Facebook and if anyone's on Facebook or knows anyone on Facebook, just send them the link here. I did post in a few places, but I know like it doesn't come up. The links to YouTube don't really come up there, so I'll have to deal with Facebook afterwards and all the questions. Almost thinking to scrap Facebook next time, but no, I'll have to fix it up. Robin says cobalt teal and Hansa make a nice green apple. Yeah, that's a good idea actually. Yeah. So go ahead. What am I doing? I'm just getting some very light bits of blue and trying to indicate just some of this tablecloth. Okay, not anything complicated or what have you. And another thing you can do is, wet and wet work. You can pick up a bit of darker paint and just drop it in here to the apple to indicate some details in it, just some shadow. Okay, these could be anything really. I mean, I don't want to, I don't want to spend all day working on the apples, but it's more sort of the sunflowers. But as you can see, just dropping in a bit of darker paint here kind of indicates some of the shadows already. All right, as long as you've got indications of light and dark, you should be fine. We'll go in afterwards, maybe add in a tiny bit of extra detail on them, but I really don't want to spend all day doing this. There we go. Good. I've got a bit of this blue in here, like that. Here, here, here. Looking around and seeing what else could we potentially put in here. I mean, the tablecloth and all that kind of stuff. There is a little bit of darkness down there, but I want to connect it up with the shadows and stuff in the background. So let's go ahead and have a play around with that. So firstly, I will pick up a mop brush. This is just a smaller mop brush that I've got here. And I'm going to... has this about dried? No, it hasn't dried yet, so we'll have to kind of wait. We'll work on the sunflowers and the shadows and stuff up the top, the background. I'm going to pick out some purplish kind of paint because it's just a nice complementary to use. You can also use other neutral colors like brown or gray and stuff like that mixed in with it. I tend to make my backgrounds pretty varied. Okay, where we get the light source coming in from the left, so there might be a sense of light over here, so you know, something to experiment around as well. Now this is what I do. I'll start off, you know, near the petals, and again, you're using smaller brushes. Even I use this one here, which is like a little flat edge sort of brush like this. Okay, it's a little what you call it, flat brush, and if you can see, it just cuts around very, very nicely. A lot of the detail and a lot of the indication of the flowers and the petals and stuff actually come from this cutting around work. Okay, and it's not perfect either, as you can see. I'm just doing it quickly, but you get the idea. This is like a negative painting type of technique where you're just cutting around and exposing a few petals here and there. You'd be surprised how little you need to sort of draw out for it to start looking like a flower. And don't be afraid to leave some of the white of the paper as well. Okay. I never paint in everything. I always leave out a bit of white. It just creates like little sparkles of interest here and there. Okay. So I'm using these like two brushes. I use one for just the cutting around the petals, and the other one. But you can also just use something like a little mop brush like this and get away with it as well. Okay, like that. You know, just cutting around, trying to just use as few brush strokes as I can as well. Okay, it's already starting to come together. So you might think to yourself, hey, a bit more vibrancy up here, or maybe I could use some brown up here. Okay, let's put in a bit of brown. It's a neutral sort of color. Yeah, this brown is a little bit warmer though. But we can put in a bit of that just to change things up. Try not to use too many colors in your backgrounds. I try to use only maybe 2 or 3 colors, if any. Okay, oops, some of it sort of leaked over. Okay, look at that. Just bring it down, and suddenly you notice things are coming out of the woodwork. As I'm moving downwards here, I'm just trying to go lighter. Another thing to keep in mind is these apples, right? These apples need to be cut around a touch like this. So I'm just maybe painting in a little bit more of a darkness around them, like that. Just to cut around those shapes. Yeah, and I'll get that in quickly. There we go. that. Left hand side, let's cut around these petals a bit like this as well. See, there we are. Bit of extra color to the left. This is just a bit of purple, and I do have whatever's just left over on the palette here, which is just a mixture of darker greys. Okay, bringing this down. Okay, thinking to myself, how dark do I want to make this further down? I'll just cut around this vase first, like that. Keeping in mind the vase is actually darker, we'll have to go into it a bit later. Or we can make it sort of stick out, but I think a shadow on it would look nicer. Okay, I'm just dulling things down here, making it a bit darker off in the background, so that there's some contrast for the apples as well. See, just cutting around them, but not too dark, just enough to draw out the roundness of them. Okay, there we are. Okay, now we're moving on to this like table here. You'll notice the table is pretty much, yeah, it's just like pretty light. So you can either leave it white or just pick up a bit of this stuff, which is what is it? It's just a bit of this milky white color that I've got. It's buff titanium. That's what it is. Just drop in a bit of this here. Okay, actually in here it's darker. I'm always looking at what color, what tone things are, and trying to make sure that I've got the right tone in there, whether it's light or dark. I think that's the most important thing to keep in mind. Okay, there we go. There's a bit of darkness actually around there through the center, but as you move downwards, it's just a lot darker down this side of the table further down. So I will pick up more, more of this grey color. We'll just make it grey. Carry that downwards. Okay, try to use a few brush strokes for this. Let's not get too bogged down. Okay, there you go. Bit of that there, bit of that here. Okay, bit of darkness. Not only that, but you do get some dark bits and pieces on this cloth as well here. So I'll just try to join that up a touch. You can create like, it's almost like these little folds and stuff in the fabric too, like that. Join, and that sort of creates a join with this part of the table. Okay, but there's still, there's still like whites in there, as you can see, little bits of whites, and you can also see around the apple and stuff like that. And there's like a shadow, bit of a shadow underneath the apples, like here. So we can, oops, that should be darker here, actually, that apple on the right hand side. So just indicating a bit of the form of the apple as well there. This one as well. See, it's a little bit messy at the bottom before, but we can clean it up and bring some of that shape back. Okay, there are shadows on the plate cast by the flowers, the vase. So I just put in a bit of that, little bit of that grey here. Okay, like this. I'm going to work a bit on the vase now and put in some color in there to get it a little darker in there. Let's go and use some darker paint, just a bit of grey. Try to blend that a bit into the background as well, like that. Cool. So after you've done all this, I think just give it a quick dry. We'll put in a few more details and highlights and bits at the end. But the main thing I wanted to show you was just these the sunflowers, and making sure that you've got the softness of all the petals in there, and using this cutting around technique as well is something that I use really often. You see here as well, I can go back into it and using this small round brush, bring out little details of the petals, kind of just draw in with a light bit of color, some indications of where the petals come out. Okay, especially when it's still sort of wet, you can soften some of these edges like that. Pick up a bit of water, dry off that brush, and just soften off that edge, and you get this nicer kind of blending effect in with the background. I don't want to do it to all the areas, but this is a technique I've seen a lot of floral artists do. Creates these nice little soft impressions, so that you've got, of course, some sharper edges and some softer edges as well. Okay. So I'm going to give this a little dry, and then we'll get back to it. Oh, I think you should be able to hear okay now, Yvette. Look, I've been having so many issues today with the stream, and it's got nothing to do with my internet connection. It's something to do, I think, with the software that I'm using. It's been updated or what have you. I was really excited to do this one today, and I'm still having some fun, but it's been frustrating, obviously, trying to click in and out of this software. It just disconnects every now and then, and so has caused some issues, obviously. So we will continue on with this, and hopefully, if everything holds fine, we will continue on and do the second scene, okay? And I'll try to make these. I think I'll make these quicker as well. And I wanted to spend a bit more time, but I think my mind is just preoccupied trying to look at this screen and making sure that it's working half the time. So it's a bit distracting. Thank you all for your patience. So we will go and do some final bits and pieces of these flowers. This is certainly not. I think I could do a lot better with these flowers. Thank you, Anne. But I think you guys get the idea, the general idea that I've gone through in terms of cutting around the flowers using this negative painting technique. Here around the vase as well, I think we can darken off a little bit, just bring out some of the details of the vase, because obviously the flowers are casting a slight shadow underneath. So making sure that we've got in some of those details is really important. Just making sure it's darker as well. So I'm going to pick out a little bit of this grayish color, and I will just darken off underneath a touch like this. Okay. A little bit of gray there, so that the vase just comes forwards a bit more. The stems of these sunflowers as well, I think what I'll do is just make them a bit more wet and wet sort of effect. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So if we go all the way down further like this, right, just creating a bit of darkness in the bottom here. What we can then do is pick up extra paint. Okay, bit of extra green. I can just drop that in here like this and help that to, because the area around it is still pretty wet, we can just drop in a bit of that green that will move along, okay? Create an impression of some of those bits and pieces, stems in there. A few little dark bits as well here at the base. I thought some darkness here. Here. We've got a bit of darkness also on the apple, the edges of the apple here. Underneath as well, like here. There. Really just your darkest bits of the painting. There, maybe a bit of shadow underneath that apple there. Okay, and this is how you bring out some sense of form as well. Maybe there. Okay, picking out bits and pieces, something like that. That. There. Okay. What else can we do? Maybe touch of shadow running to the right hand side for some of these apples, like this, there, there, these, what have you, just casting a bit of that shadow, like that. A little bit of dry brush in the background, like here, for just the edge of the table. Separating that out a touch. Bit more of that cloth. Okay. I'm actually quite tempted to change this up a bit, maybe make the vase, the background dark around the vase, but look, I think we will just leave it as is. Okay. Take off that paper. Tape around the edges. Let's have a quick look. I think it looks all right for a little sketch, and we had some practice, I suppose, using these different techniques, and just goes to show not everything works out 100% the way you want it to, but the main thing, of course, is I think I like the granulation up in the edges, this kind of wet and wet effect. Normally you can, if you minus out the apples and stuff like that, just focus on the vase, you can get something like that in very, very quickly. So I will put this away, and the stream looks to still be functioning okay. So we'll just continue on. I always like to finish what I've started, and if I say that I'm if I plan to do something, I want to continue and do it. That's why I'm just sort of persevering through this, even though I'm a little bit annoyed at the stream and everything like that. I think if I think I can sort that out for next time. I just want to make good with you guys. So this is an interesting scene, actually, because there's a lot of details in it. Okay, this is the let me bring it up. The you would have the reference photo. I put that up earlier. If you're on YouTube, it's in the communities tab, and on Facebook, it's in the discussions tab. So you should have a copy of that already. There's a lot of detail in here. There's little houses up on the headland, near the cliffs, and what a nice view. And you've got some little boats on the left side. They're kind of up on the edge of these these rocky areas where we've got the cars and the car park on there. There's a lot of rocks and stuff in the foreground, and one thing I didn't quite like about this scene is this ridge in the center. It's kind of looks like an inlet or something, where maybe the river flows into the ocean, but it looks kind of a bit disjointed. So I was thinking I would actually cut this bit out, but what I did like was these rocks that you can see just scattered along the ground, and using some of those as just like as a general detailing technique in the foreground. So let's go ahead and get started with the drawing. And first thing I want to do is mark out the center of the page. So let's divide this sheet of paper into half. Okay, let's do that. And why am I doing that? Well, if we look at the cliffs or the headland out the back, you notice they finish off roughly in the center of the page. So try to always find that the most easiest way to divide the sky and the land. And with landscape painting, if you do get this bit right, then the rest of it is a lot easier. Um, and Yvette says, looks great. I think you guys were talking about my last painting, the sunflowers. Pamela's happy with it as well. And Chanel, and thank you guys. Yvonne says, Darren, need to sign off. It's 10 p.m. here and I have a trial tomorrow. We'll catch this later. Okay. Good luck, Yvonne. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. I'll have to actually edit this video, chop out the start of the video where I was fiddling around with all the settings and things. So, yeah, thank you for coming along and being patient. This morning has probably been the most difficult of all the lives I've run, just because I couldn't fix whatever was going on. There's just something going on in the background, and nothing to do with my internet connection. So we'll go on and look at how I'm going to tackle this scene. So like I mentioned before, you can sort of think to yourself what you want to include, what you don't want to include. I really like these boats. There's a whole bunch of these little colorful boats in there, and I want to include them all because in the reference picture, they look more as an afterthought. I mean, they're just there in the background somewhere, but maybe we could make them, maybe we can make them come forward a bit more. Maybe we could make one kind of closer in the foreground, just another thought, right? But we'll keep that in the back of my mind. And we'll look at the headland now. It sort of comes up here, this large rocky bit like that. Okay, yeah. And the great thing about rocks and nature is you just don't have to be too accurate with everything. You just have to get in a basic little thing like that, and it looks like a cliff. Okay, because they all come in different shapes. So, I mean, what's going to be tricky, though, is this house. And this, well, there's a lot going on in here. So, how can we simplify this down? I think that one up the top there is going to be a little trickier to do. Can I simplify this down? I could probably simplify it and just put in, like, instead of putting in the front bit, I'll just put in the length there. I'll draw this in a bit more darker as well, actually, so you can see. Yeah. Okay. These are quite small as well, so I don't want to overdo it. Okay, like that. Okay, looking at them as shapes as well, like that's a triangle. That's another triangle. Yeah, we got another triangle here. Okay. That separating them is like a couple of these little squarish shapes. You got something up there. Okay. In terms of all the windows and stuff, no big deal. Of course, on top there's like little chimneys and things like that, but I don't, we just want to put in a little house up the top. Okay. These bushes and stuff. Well, they're not bushes, they're trees, aren't they? They're just enormous, but they look small from the distance. And that's another thing with perspective, is you will often find as you move into the background, things become smaller. Let me zoom in a touch so you can see the drawing with more clarity. Okay, so that's a little house I had put up the top, simplified down. Okay, picking out the shapes like that triangle shape or what have you. I've kind of squashed it a little bit as well and widened it. Okay, something like that. All right, when we get it in, it's going to be quite simple. It's just going to stand out against the sky, really. Over on here, there's kind of like a road or something going up there, and then there's just some trees and part of this cliff. It's almost like a second one in front here. A bit of a cliff region. Okay. Here. We've got another house here. So let's draw something in. Again, I'll use that same shape as we had above. Kind of like this. Rooftop, like that. There we go. That's a house, isn't it? Building. There's a few more here in the background, and you don't have to put them all in. It's just getting in like a rectangular shape like that, and a bit of the side of the building can help. But if not, just get in the rooftop and that rectangular sort of shape, and trust me, it's going to look like a building once we cut around all the shapes in there. Here is the foreground, and we've got all kinds of buildings here. I'm not interested really in what exactly is going on with these buildings. Okay, just a quick indication, something like that. Okay, there's even cars here. There's even a car here parked in the car park. You know, I'm just putting them in as like little boxes, perhaps. You know, there could be anything. But one thing I quite like is maybe this section there, where we can maybe line up a few boats. Okay, let me zoom in to the boats and see what we can do with them. Yeah, we just put in like just little shapes like this. Some of them are standing up. Okay. Of course, you've got some kind of like railing or whatever here. Where should we include that or not? I think I'll just get rid of that. Let's get rid of that railing and just put in some boats that maybe extend out. And these ones are starting to look like gondolas. I've drawn too many gondolas in Venice, painted too many Venice scenes. So all the boats that I draw tend to look like gondolas. Okay, rocks. Let's put in some rocks and stuff. Look, little indication of some of these rocks. That's all we want. And now there's a bit of interest here. Like there's like sand and there's water and stuff like that. It's kind of complicated, but we will simplify this down and just make the water come in a bit more, maybe like to here. Okay, something like that, like here. Okay, so we'll have water, and then we'll have sand, and of course some figures. Okay, here's a couple. One here. It could be another person here, just sort of standing, looking out into the beach. Another person off in the distance. Okay, if you want, you can even put a larger figure here, like that. I don't know how that's going to go, but just extend that out a little bit. You'd be holding a backpack or something. There we go. And shadows. Let's have a look. We've got shadows running to the right-hand side. So if we look at the cliffs and the shadows, you can see there's a lot of darkness on the right side of the cliffs. So that indicates that there is some type of light source coming from the left. Okay. I'll just darken this more so you're able to see. Spend a fair bit of time on the drawing nowadays. Not necessarily detailing, but like I'm just thinking, using that time to think and plan. As you can see, I'm kind of like talking you through my process and what's going on in my head. So I think we've got enough to go by with the painting. Okay, and as you can see, I've cut out a few bits and pieces, you have that ability as an artist to change things around. Let's go. I'm going to start. Okay, so first we're going to think, how are we going to do this? I'm going to put in the sky first. Put in the sky first. So a bit of water up the top. Okay, just a little clear water. Okay. Some clear water. And why am I wetting this bit of paper first? It's just so that everything can run together nicely. And I can leave some white bits for the clouds and stuff like that. So bit of this cerulean blue. Look at that. Just drop that in there. Be bold. And leave out some of this, what do you call it? Leave out a bit of the white of the paper as well. Okay. There. For some reason, this the cerulean blue that I use has like a kind of bubbly, it leaves these weird bubbles behind. So I'm just feathering them off. There, look at that. Just another bit of blue here, and there's a large cloud that's just running behind this headland. Okay, it's almost like in the way of the house. That bit of this blue in here. Okay, good. Okay, put in now some colors for the background areas. So actually let's have a look. Let's think what we can do actually. I'm actually going to dry off. Funny, I'm going to dry off this area first. And the reason why I decided to sort of dry that off is so I can get in a sharper edge for all these buildings and everything like that. I think it will actually look better if we do it this way. Small mop brush, and if you've got yourself a little round brush or one of these flat edge brushes. I've lost mine somewhere in here. I was using it before. Oh, it's disappeared. Oh, it's here. Okay. All right. So, firstly, let's use a bit of green straight in the top, and you'll notice how dark this green is as well, because we need to really make it separate out from the sky. And I haven't dried that sky area completely too. Mind you, as you can see, it's like slightly still wet in there, but I don't really care. It will blend in and actually look more interesting. Okay, that. Okay, and remember to cut around this house as well, this little building. Okay, that. Edges of the building are just so important, just making sure you're leaving them out. Not coloring them in green as well. Okay, there. I might even pick up a bit of brown and mix some brown in there as well. That. How much green do I have left? Got enough in here. So So I can just go ahead and bring this further here. Change that up. I'm picking, just trying to find some other greens or mixing them up. A bit of cerulean blue and a bit of that, sorry, ultramarine blue and yellow. Okay, there we go. Just getting in some of this rock and the greens in there as well. Blue and a bit of yellow. Okay, something like that. Here, gonna cut around this top of that building. That there. Okay. The big thing here is just to simplify and leave the white of the paper as well. And you can see how it just feathers down into this like more yellowy, earthy color near the bottom. But for the time being, we can just cut around all this stuff. Oops, rid of that. There, a bit of this section as well. This is just a bit of green as down the side. Color in there. Good. Okay. Good. So I'm going to pick up now some yellow ochre. It's like quite a nice, warm, yellowy sort of color. And drop a bit of that here in the base. All right. And just get that to mix in a bit with the stuff up there. Okay, look at that. It's starting to look a bit more like a rock. It's all mainly on the base of this rock here, there. Okay, good. Great. And another thing you can do is also work on little shadows and stuff of the buildings. Like, for example, I might just want to get the top of the roof of this building like that in quickly. A bit more here. What have we got? A bit more of the sides of the building here. That. Okay. Join that on a bit to the area of the trees and stuff below. Okay. Have a look at this side. There's actually a little kind of shadow underneath the rooftop. Darkness in here. That could be like a wall. There you go. That's another bit there. A bit of darkness in there. Underneath the rooftop there. Here as well. Separation of that building. Simple, quick little thing like that. You can even see there's like a chimney here. I haven't put much of the details of this little chimneys and things in, but you can just indicate them like that. Okay. Little bits of color. Okay. Now, let's work on the water. And I'm going to pick up a little brush, just a little mop brush. We'll use some kind of turquoisey color. Okay, if we've got some cerulean blue, that will be fine as well. I'm going to start off here. And it kind of goes behind, doesn't it? The cliffs like that. I've forgotten to get in some of these rocks here, so I will leave them out with some white and sort of remind myself to go into it later on. Okay. And as you can see, what I'm doing is just leaving a bit of like white in there as well. Maybe a bit of darkness in the background. Right. Okay. Just get that back bit of the water slightly darker. Then I'll work my way down here. Okay. Into near where the sand is. And another thing I need to do is get the sand in quickly. So I'm going to be using a bit of this whitish color mixed with yellow ochre. So buff titanium with yellow ochre. That's it. Okay. Put this in there like that. Just cutting around the boats a touch as well, like that. Here, maybe a bit there. Nice, and just a lot of water, mostly water. Okay, keep it very light. Okay. And then you can just get the blue. Do this thing. Feather it downwards to the water, into the sand. Okay. Let it melt in. These little bits of white I'm leaving as well. I will go back in it, maybe with some gouache to bring out some little waves or something. But like that, we should be okay. Another thing I want to do is maybe get some bits of paint in here in the mix, just to keep the foreground a bit more interesting. So I'll pick up bits of just grey or something like that and just add a bit into my brush and flick some of that paint here. Okay, like that. Just a bit of stuff like that. It could be rocks or who knows what, but I always find doing this makes it look more interesting later. Bigger splatters and stuff near the front. Okay. Now, of course, we've got a few different bits and pieces here. There's like some boats, there's people. There is a larger building as well here that we can get in with a bit of color and a bit of shade. But I will just dry this off first. Okay. let's go into these boats, the figures, that kind of thing. So I will pick up some. Well, this is really up to you. You can pick up all kinds of different colors for some of these boats. And look, I'm just putting in, I want to just make it quite simple. Hopefully one brush stroke to get in some of these shapes of boats and things. Just colors, really. Boats up on the edge like that. Maybe some a darker one here. Like that. Another one here. Okay. Good. Not only that, we've got these figures, and I thought, why not put in the legs of them first, like just a bit of dry brushed black. Okay, like this. There's someone just walking here. Another person walking. This one kind of walking towards the front a bit. Okay. There we go. There. And of course, making sure that they have some shadows underneath them as well, like this. Yeah, like that. The boats, I think I want to cast a bit of a shadow, create a bit of this shadowy shape for the boats too, like that. Simplify them shadows down and join it on. I'm trying to join the shadows on with the boats themselves as well. Also, what you can do is if you identify a few rocks like here, you can just get in like the same sort of deal, like this little indication of like a shadow running towards the right hand side for some of these, rocks and things that you want to put in there. I don't want to overdo it though, just a few little bits. Also, you can get seaweed and stuff, on the shore. So a little dry brush and what have you near there is good. This is, I don't know, I'm just trying to indicate like a shadow that's out of the scene, like something casting a shadow there. Of course, we've got these buildings to the left, which I will get in darker as well. Like this there. Bit of darkness. I do want to perhaps leave some of the white as well on top. This doesn't concern me really in terms of the buildings. It's just just a really basic background. But I do want to just cut around these boats, and normally I find that leaving a bit of a white, like a little white edge around the sides of the boats like this can draw them out a touch. When you're painting wet into wet, especially, it just keeps the boat slightly more separated from everything else. You can even put in some more darkness in there if you want. Bit of blue or something like that. There's a few more things, for example, like the cliffs. The cliffs area, you might find that there is just some dark bits and pieces, like here. You can just use the side of your brush to imply some of this stuff, textures and whatever you like that. There's like a rock in the water that I'd forgotten to put in before, so I can just get in a few of that rock there. Using the side of the brush, you can create these little bits of texture. And remember to dry off the brush a touch first before you do this. There you go. There. on the buildings, you can do things like put in the windows or just indications of windows and stuff like that. Little mark here and there. Okay. It's really up to you how much detail you want to add into them. Bit of extra darkness near the base. And also in the trees, there are some darker spots here and there. Okay. Put in a few little birds maybe up the top here. Claire, good to see you. Thank you. Claire says, love your color scheme on this beach painting. It's, yeah, I've used like, yeah, I think I've used fewer colors, funny enough, and tried to simplify the shadows, join the shadows onto the actual forms. It's looking half decent. And there we go. In terms of these people, you can put in colors for their shirts and stuff like that, or you can, it's up to you. You can just leave them with white. But for example, if I want to put in a bit of blue, light blue, you can drop some in for this person here, like that. This person you might want to put in a bit of, a bit of like a milky sort of color for this. You can do that as well. I think leaving some white in there is good to just indicate the light source. Don't have to color everything in. Bit of color for the head, like this. There's the buildings do have a little color on them as well. I will maybe just pick up some of this. It's just like a brownish color. Wipe that across quickly like that. There we go. Just dull that down slightly. It's not sticking out too much. Even the rooftops, I feel perhaps they're like a little too light on this building, so we can dull that down a touch like that as well. And a bit of hair or something as well for these figures. It's just oops, too much, but we'll be okay. There. Draw out the bottom parts of these boats a little bit. And probably to finish it off, a tiny bit of gouache would be good for the water. Bring out some of the waves. Thanks, Yvette. Liking the colors. You guys are digging the color scheme here. You always like your beach scenes, Yvette. You had to include one of these. And yeah, I think beach scenes. I don't know. There's something about them. It was one of the first scenes I think I attempted in watercolors, and just like the sense of just the sky and the earth. There's a simplicity to it, but with everything that you add in there, it really makes a difference because, with just that sky and earth, obviously we need to create a little bit of detail and things going on. So all the little bits that you add in, they just pop out more, and you kind of have to make more of an effort to tell a story. That's what I think anyway. But with this particular reference photo, there's a lot going on. So yeah, here you've kind of got more choice. You don't have to think as much. Really, I'm just having to pick out what to leave out, what to leave in. Okay, a little bit of this white gouache, and I will stick some of it like straight here into the rocks, maybe. Um, Dry brush some of this on. I don't want to overdo it, but just some little bits like this would be nice. Okay. All right. Take off the tape, and let's see what we got. Oh, bring this off. Okay, so we made it through. With all the technical difficulties at the start, I have to figure out what's going on. I'm quite happy with this second one. The first one I think was decent for, like, I guess general application of techniques and just understanding my process. Probably would have liked to go a little bit more detailed and spent some more time on that one. But yeah, I thought I'd just focus more on that top section. And it's the same techniques I've used really to paint something like this, which I just spent more time doing, but it's really the exact same thing as I've done here, but just with more time, a bit more time on my hands, and extra shadows and stuff like that, extra details, as you can see here on the flowers. This here is another one I did as well, which it's quite similar to this one, just on a kind of higher vantage point. So I hope today's been helpful for you, and I've got links in the description and stuff like that. If you'd like to support me, there's my Patreon on there, and you actually, if you go for the highest level, you get access to 49 courses. Soon going to be 51 courses once I edit the other two or three that I have recorded. So check it out, and also check out my website, watercolormentor.com. If you want to if you want some feedback on your work as well, post it in the Watercolor Mentor community on Facebook, and just tag me so that I don't miss out on your comment and your painting. And I'll give you a little bit of feedback on your work. Shanola says, thanks, Darren. Another awesome tutorial. Appreciate you taking the time. Try doing tomorrow. It's almost bedtime. Thank you for coming along, everyone. And thank you all, Yvette, as well. Saying persevered. Yeah, I had to do it. You get those. I had that bit of a moment this morning where I was like, I'm just going to cancel this thing. This is too much. I just want to paint. But look, I said I was going to do it, so I went through with it. So I think you guys got the benefit of understanding my process and a bit of the practice, a bit of something, building up a bit of that brush mileage as well. So we've got one here, Bonzobi. Thank you, Darren. Love the paintings. Thank you, Bonzobi. You're new here. Haven't seen you here before. I actually shared this link on Facebook, and I don't think many people ended up seeing it. But I have to figure out what's happened. Deb says, thank you, so helpful. Appreciate it, Deb. Yeah, you can check out the links in my description if you'd like to support me. and also like to learn a bit more from my full recorded courses. I've got a few hundred hours of content on there, a lot of stuff that go into more detail, and that just helps. Yeah, that just helps me to continue doing what I'm doing, and it's been great. You know, if I could fix all the technology issues just one go, but I consider myself pretty decent with computers and stuff, but just something new comes up every time. And Linda says, "Thank you very much. I've not drawn for years. I've enjoyed this so much. Thank you, Linda. I'm glad you've gotten back into it, and you found a bit of inspiration from this workshop to continue on, and yeah, just give this a try, because a lot of times getting started is the hardest thing. Getting started and actually like getting your paints ready, and then there's the psychological stuff as well, where you're thinking, am I good enough? Am I going to be able to pull this one off? But I think we do a lot of the time think too much, and if we just make a start, you'll be surprised at where you end up. Managed to do these two somehow today, and you guys seem pretty happy with them. Do you have any questions? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Bit disappointed that we couldn't get people on Facebook. I'm gonna have to do some testing. Keep saying that. Pamela says, "Thanks, Darren." Thank you, Pamela. And Anne, thank you. Thank you as well. I'll have to do another flower one for you, Anne, because I can do better than this, and I think I ought to try something different from sunflowers anyway. Yeah, so maybe something else, like a vase of flowers, or like different ones. I've done a few of those before, so thank you all for your patience. I'll have to edit this scene and cut it up for Facebook as well, to make sure that people there don't miss out. But I will catch you all next time, and see you then.